Hello, amazing viewers. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to support my growth. Every click helps me bring you more exciting and powerful stories like this one. Before you chase spiritual shortcuts, ask yourself, are you ready to pay the price? Because some sacrifices live longer than those who made them. Many have walked into dark forests seeking quick wealth and power but returned with chains that outlive their names. The spirits may give, but they never give for free. This is the haunting story of Ogeneuwa and Ogeneuwa, two best friends whose hunger for power and wealth cursed generations yet unborn. They got what they asked for, but at what cost? Sit back, relax, and watch till the end. A long time ago, in the heart of a prosperous but deeply superstitious village nestled between rolling hills and the dense shade of ancient trees, there lived two men, Ogeneuwa and Ogeneuwa, bound by years of friendship. The two men shared not only a history of childhood escapades and wild hunting adventures but also the burdens and responsibilities of manhood. Both were skilled hunters, revered for their unmatched ability to track and kill the most elusive of prey. They were husbands and fathers, and their families respected them. But despite all they had, their hearts burned with a hunger for more. Ogeneuwa, tall, stoic, and commanding, desired power more than anything. He wanted to rule, to become king, to have every voice in the village bow to his own, to control destinies, and to shape the village's laws. Ogeneuwa, on the other hand, short, broad-chested, and quick-witted, was obsessed with wealth. He wanted to be feared, to be known far and wide as the richest man who ever lived, to have so much gold and land that generations would call him a god among men. Their yearning led them to a forbidden path. One evening, cloaked in secrecy and the silence of the night, Ogeneuwa whispered to Ogeneuwa, "There is an old tale of a native doctor who lives in the evil forest. They say he is not a man but a spirit trapped in the body of one. They call him the Leafy Doctor." Ogeneuwa's eyes gleamed. "Then we must find him. If anyone can help us, it's him." They made preparations and left their families with lies of a hunting expedition that could last weeks. With machetes in hand and charms tied around their necks, they entered the evil forest, a place feared by all. Trees there whispered in unfamiliar tongues, animals watched them without blinking, and the wind itself seemed to carry curses. After days of wandering, they found a clearing surrounded by trees with black leaves. In the center was a hut made entirely of leaves and animal bones. From within, a voice called, "Come in, children of ambition." Inside sat a being shrouded in leaves, skin like cracked wood, eyes glowing like embers. "The Leafy Doctor, I know why you've come," he croaked. "You want what men have died seeking." They fell to their knees, and one after the other, spoke their desire. "For you, Ogeneuwa," the Leafy Doctor said, "wealth that knows no end. But it comes at a price. Bring me a virgin girl, untouched, innocent, and spill her blood upon this land. Her scream will call the spirits of wealth to you." Ogeneuwa nodded without hesitation. "Consider it done. And you, Ogeneuwa, king, you shall be. But only if you bury a strong, healthy man alive. His soul will serve you forever. Yet, for both of you, know this, your generations unborn will weep." He turned to Ogeneuwa. "No daughter of your blood will ever marry and know peace. Those who try will marry misery and lack." He faced Ogeneuwa. "Your sons and their sons will be paupers. They will beg. They will starve. Their names will bring pity. But the men, blinded by desire, accepted. And so began their journey of darkness." Ogeneuwa returned with a young girl, the daughter of a widow from the next village. He tricked her with tales of a better life, offering money to her poor mother. Her name was Masoma, barely 12 years old, with eyes like the morning sun and a heart so gentle, even birds perched on her arms. He promised to take her to the town to enroll her in a school, promising clothes and food and toys. The widow, though hesitant, gave in to the temptation of a better life for her only child. But when days passed and her daughter never returned, the widow grew frantic. She screamed through the village, running barefoot with madness in her eyes. "Where is my daughter? Where is my only joy?" She went to the chief's palace, to every shrine, crying, "Whoever took my child, may the earth reject your name. May the gods punish you until your last breath. May your seed dry in the ground." She tore her clothes, smeared her face with ashes, and cursed the unknown soul responsible. The villagers joined her search, but Masoma was gone, buried deep under the cursed tree in the evil forest, her soul screaming in silence. Weeks later, riches began to flow to Ogeneuwa. His hunting traps brought not animals but precious stones. Traders from afar brought gold, diamonds, and silks. He built a palace of iron and glass. People trembled before him. He sat in a high chair covered with leopard skin, carried on the shoulders of slaves. When he walked into the market, sellers dropped their wares and bowed. He took whatever he wanted: clothes, land, even wives of others, with no question. If a man protested, his house would be burnt by morning. At festivals, he threw gold coins into the crowd, watching them scramble like rats. He built a mansion with 7 gates and 100 servants. He owned horses, camels, and even brought a white monkey from a foreign land just to amuse guests. His laughter echoed like thunder, and his voice settled all disputes. "Let Ogeneuwa speak," the people would say. "What he says is final." Ogeneuwa, too, fulfilled his task. He captured a traveler, young, muscular, full of life, and buried him alive behind his hut. Days after, the king fell sick, and the oracle declared Ogeneuwa the rightful successor. He ruled with an iron fist. He changed the laws to benefit himself. He took young boys and made them slaves in his palace. He declared a family land his own and forced the owners into exile. He appointed friends as chiefs, demoted elders who questioned him. He built a throne that sat atop human skulls and used the bones of his enemies to decorate his compound. When he rode on horseback, drummers walked before him, announcing his arrival. At public meetings, he interrupted speakers and declared, "My word is law." If anyone opposed him, they disappeared. Some were thrown into rivers. Others were declared insane and locked away. People feared to call his name at night. Even masquerades avoided his compound. Years passed. Ogeneuwa had 5 daughters: Adana, Ugochi, Neoma, Olubub, and Amarachi. Each was a beauty, each cursed. Adana, the eldest, tall and graceful, fell in love with a wealthy palm oil merchant. Their wedding was the talk of the town. But 3 months into the marriage, the man's business collapsed. He lost all his investments, ran into debt, and one day vanished into the forest, never to return. Adana came back to her father's house, pregnant and weeping. Ugochi, the second daughter, was quiet and respectful. A young teacher from the city proposed to her, despite warnings. On the night of their traditional marriage, a strange sickness struck him. He became blind and paralyzed. His family blamed Ugochi. She returned home, broken and humiliated. Neoma, the third, was daring. She eloped with a farmer's son. They lived in a distant village. But every planting season, their crops failed. Hunger and disease followed. The boy died of cholera. Neoma, pregnant and alone, returned to Ogeneuwa's compound barefoot and shivering. Olubub, intelligent and sweet-voiced, never found a suitor. Every man who showed interest would meet sudden misfortune, a road accident, mysterious illness, or theft that ruined him. At age 35, she gave up and lived like a recluse. Amarachi, the youngest, rebelled. She got pregnant at 16 by a bus conductor. He promised to marry her, then ran away. She gave birth to another girl. All her sisters, too, bore only daughters. These new daughters, Adana's Chidinma, Ugochi's Ades, Neoma's Kosasoshukwu, and Amarachi's Ebube, grew up poor, confused, and often mocked. They wore their mother's pain-like skin. Each generation is weaker, poorer, and more broken than the last. Their homes were filled with tears, their nights with unanswered prayers. They asked, "Why does happiness flee from us?" And the old ones whispered, "Because their grandfather shed innocent blood for gold." The curse walked behind them, unseen but ever present, like a shadow at noon. Their beauty became their burden. Men admired but never stayed. Those who stayed, suffered. Ogeneuwa died rich but alone. His mansion became a haunted house. Servants left. His gold turned to dust. His name, a warning. And to this day, when a girl is born to that lineage, the elders sigh and say, "Another flower grown in cursed soil." The tale of Ogeneuwa's daughters and their daughters became a sorrowful song sung at moonlight. Adana cried by moonlight, Ugochi's dreams were torn. Neoma's love was swallowed, Olubub died forlorn. Amarachi bore her burden, Chidinma walks alone. Their beauty shines with sadness, from a throne of blood and bone. Years passed, and the echoes of Ogeneuwa's dark deal with the Dibia began to manifest, not through thunder or lightning, but through quiet, painful poverty that clung like a stubborn shadow to his bloodline. Ogeneuwa, once a man of absolute power and unchallenged authority, had 4 sons, Obadiah, Somedina, Ebuka, and Chidi. Each of them had grown under the heavy shadow of their father's glory, their names celebrated simply because they bore the name, Ogeneuwa. One by one, the boys left home in search of a better life. Obadiah went to Onitsha, a bustling city full of traders and entrepreneurs. Somedina moved to Lagos, the city of endless dreams. Ebuka tried his hands in Port Harcourt, working in the oil fields. Chidi, the youngest, left for Abuja, aiming to become a civil servant. They all carried the confidence of their father's name, unaware of the ancient curse that wrapped around their destinies. In the cities, they toiled. Obadiah started a motorcycle spare parts business. For the first few months, he sold well, but one night, a fire razed the entire complex. He was left with debts and no hope of recovery. Somedina joined a transportation company as a driver. He was diligent and always early to work. One day, he was falsely accused of theft by a jealous colleague. He was arrested, beaten, and fired. Since then, no company would employ him. Ebuka worked in the oil fields, doing the dirtiest, most dangerous jobs. After 2 years, he suffered a terrible accident when a scaffold collapsed. He was not compensated, and the company claimed he had signed a waiver. His savings disappeared in hospital bills. Chidi graduated with good grades and was well-spoken. He applied to over 30 government offices. Each time, he passed interviews, but the job would always go to someone else. One day, a senior officer told him, "Young man, there's something about you that brings misfortune. People feel it. You walk in, and the air changes." After years of endless trials, each son returned home, their hopes broken, their bodies weary. Obadiah came back first, wearing torn clothes, his eyes sunken. He began doing menial farm work for elders who once bowed to his father. Somedina came next, dirty, skinny, and defeated. Then Ebuka, limping with a wooden stick. Chidi followed, quiet and bitter. They began to live under their father's roof again, grown men who once dreamt of empires but now begged for food. Ogeneuwa, now aging and frail, could no longer look them in the eye. One evening, as they sat under the ube tree in their compound, Chidi said, "Something is not right. We are cursed. It's not normal to suffer like this. We must find answers." So they began to search for solutions. They visited churches, many of them. They joined prayer groups, attended vigils, and sowed seeds, but nothing changed. Pastors laid hands on them, yet their lives remained dry. They visited native doctors in other towns. Some gave them strange concoctions. Some demanded animals, money, and sacrifices. Still, nothing worked. Each time they tried a new solution, another hardship followed. Chidi once sold his only pair of shoes to pay a diviner who promised him breakthrough in 7 days. On the 7th day, he fainted on the road from hunger. One night, a strange woman passed by their compound. She stopped and looked at them. Her eyes were like fireflies in the dark. "I know your faces," she said. "Your father walked into the evil forest many years ago. What he took, he paid for, but the price did not end with him. You were living the consequence of his hunger for power." She left before they could ask more. That night, Obadiah cried like a child. Somedina refused to eat. Ebuka sat still, like a stone. Chitty looked up at the sky and whispered, "Then what can we do now? Must we die like this?" With no answers and no way forward, the 4 sons of Ogeneuwa lived like ghosts in their own village. Children mocked them. Women avoided them. Landowners refused to lease them farms, claiming anything they touched would die. Obadiah grew thin and sick. Somedina began to talk to himself. Ebuka would stare into the fire for hours. Chitty often walked far into the bush, sometimes barefoot, seeking any sign, any divine whisper. The curse of their father clung to them like a chain. And so, the once proud house of Ogeneuwa became a hut of shame. But deep in the mountains, an ancient priestess stirred, sensing the ripple of pain across generations. And soon, the winds of fate would shift. Far away in the Ogeneuwa mountains, where the clouds stooped low and the trees whispered the old tongue, an ancient priestess named Mama Urine stirred in her sanctuary. Her hut, woven with wild vine and bone charms, sat in a circle of sacred stones, untouched by time or war. Mama Urine rarely came down from the hills. But on one rainy night, her fire flickered blue. She saw visions. Faces of 4 suffering men, Ogeneuwa's sons, flickered in the flame. And then another face. Adez, the first granddaughter of Ogeneuwa. Her spirit was unlike the others. She was bold, unyielding, and shrouded in a quiet mystery. Born to Adana, Ogeneuwa's first daughter who had returned home after her husband ran mad and her in-laws threw her out, Adez was different. She had survived ridicule, hunger, and a curse she did not understand. She could speak to animals and hear the thoughts of trees. She often saw things before they happened. The villagers feared her. Even her mother looked at her sometimes with worry. And one day, Mama Urine came down the mountain. She arrived in Ogeneuwa's compound barefoot, her skin painted with ash, her voice as calm as thunder just before it breaks. The villagers watched from behind door cracks. No one had seen her in nearly 40 years. She looked at the 4 sons of Ogeneuwa, sitting in defeat under the ube tree. Then she looked at Adez. "You carry power," she said. "But it sleeps. Let me help you awaken it. Only you can break the chains your grandfather and Ogeneuwa tied around this family." The family clung to her words like a drowning man to dry land. Mama Urine led Adez into the evil forest, the very place where Ogeneuwa and Ogeneuwa had once bargained away their bloodline. For 7 days, Adez drank no water, ate no food. She bathed in moonlight and wore white from head to toe. On the 8th night, Mama Urine drew a circle with the blood of a black goat and placed Adez in the center. She chanted, and the wind howled. The trees bowed, and Adez's eyes turned white. A strange spirit entered her body, laughing in a woman's voice. "It is done," said Mama Urine. She returned Adez to the village. The next morning, the 4 sons of Ogeneuwa awoke to find their compound swept, their yam barn full, and a new house, modern and shining, where the old mud hut once stood. The villagers rejoiced. People traveled from far and wide to hear from Adez. She began to speak prophecies. Every word she uttered came true. When she said rain would fall, it poured. When she warned of death, someone would die. Her fame spread beyond 7 rivers and hills. Obadiah, Somedina, Ebuka, and Chitty began to prosper. They opened businesses and started building houses. Their names were cleared. People respected them again. But nothing good built on blood lasts forever. One night, Chitty had a dream. He saw Adez sitting on a throne of fire. Below her feet were crying children, faceless and chained. He woke up screaming. He told Mama Urine, but she dismissed him. "When a spirit gives you freedom, you don't question the cost," she said. Then strange things began to happen. Women in the village began to go barren. Men lost their sleep. Children were born but never cried. Some had extra fingers. Some had no eyes. Adez began to speak less. Her eyes grew darker, her skin paler. Sometimes, her voice changed. At night, people heard her speaking in tongues not heard by men. The yam barns that once overflowed began to rot from within. The compound of Ogeneuwa became beautiful, but the air around it was cold. And the worst truth dawned on them. They had traded one curse for another. Adez was no longer fully herself. Mama Urine had not come to break their bondage, she had simply restructured it. The curse was no longer poverty. It was spiritual slavery. The four brothers gathered once more under the ube tree, their faces heavy. Obadiah whispered, "We have opened another door, and this one may never close." And far in her sanctuary, Mama Urine smiled, stroking the skull of a raven. As darkness deepened over the village of Umuchum, rumors swirled like dry leaves in Harmattan. The elders whispered, the midwives cried, and the trees in the evil forest grew restless. Everyone knew something was wrong, but none dared speak against Adez. Not openly, not when her words bent reality and her eyes glowed with unseen fire. But then, a man returned from the wilderness. His name was Ogeneuwa. He had once been a childhood friend of Chidi, the youngest son of Ogeneuwa. But when Ogeneuwa turned 16, he vanished into the mountains to seek the light, as he always put it. Many thought he had died. But he hadn't. He had walked through 7 shrines, served under 5 native doctors, and studied under a blind seer who lived inside a cave. He fasted on hills, wrestled with spirits, and once, it was said, walked across a river barefooted. When he returned, his hair was braided with cowries, his staff carved with sacred symbols. His voice carried thunder, but his heart was calm. He arrived in Umuchum on a moonless night, barefoot and bare-chested, with only a gourd, a string of beads, and the staff of Uda, the seer of Agbala. He did not stop at any house. He walked straight to Ogeneuwa's compound, now a palace of wealth and silence. There, under the mango tree where Adez now sat like a queen, he knelt, not in worship, but in challenge. "Daughter of sorrow, vessel of twisted glory," he said, "you are not the beginning, but I will be the end." The air stilled. A crow landed on the roof and screamed. The wind refused to blow. Adez opened her eyes slowly. "You came to die?" she asked, her voice not hers. It echoed, layered like many voices speaking at once. "I came to set you free," Ogeneuwa replied, planting his staff into the earth. And then the fight began. Not with fists, but with fire, words, and shadows. Thunder cracked across the sky, though no clouds were seen. The earth trembled. The goats screamed and fled. The villagers watched from afar, peering through cracks and crevices. Mama Urine appeared from nowhere, chanting, her eyes bloodshot. She threw bones into the air, and they turned into serpents. But Ogeneuwa struck his staff thrice on the ground. The serpents burst into smoke. Adez screamed, not in pain, but in resistance. Her body lifted from the ground, twirling, as voices of ancient spirits spoke from her belly. But Ogeneuwa sang, a song no one understood but every spirit feared. A song of truth. A song older than Mama Urine. Older than the evil forest. And slowly, the light returned to Adez's eyes. Her body dropped to the earth, limp and shaking. Mama Urine vanished into dust. The fire in the compound died. The air shifted. The aftermath. When Adez awoke, she wept. She didn't remember most of what had happened. Her voice returned to her. Her laughter changed. She began to walk among the villagers again, helping them with their work. The 4 sons of Ogeneuwa watched, unsure, but hopeful. Ogeneuwa did not stay. He gave Adez a calabash and told her, "Inside is your last trial. You must never open it until the day your heart is truly clean." Then he left, back to the mountains. For the first time in generations, peace kissed the compound of Ogeneuwa. But deep down, everyone knew, the past was a wound. And some wounds do not heal. They only quieten. Adez now carried the hope of the cursed bloodline. Whether she would become the true redeemer or another doorway, time alone would tell. What's the lesson here? The pain inflicted by one generation can follow the next, proving that the choices of today often shape the reality of tomorrow. So, beware of deceptive help. Not all who offer help are helpers. The end. Thank you so much for watching till the end. Your time means the world to me, and I don't take it for granted. Every view, every like, every comment, They encourage me more than you can imagine. I pray that as you support me, God will support you too. May favor find you, may joy never depart from your life, and may all your dreams come true. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell to support my growth. Stay safe, stay blessed, see you next time. Bye bye.